Hi, and I'm Katie from That's What She Said, affiliated with the Board Game Mechanics, and I want to do something a little different. Normally you see Kim and I sitting here in my board game room, but today it is Memorial Day weekend. So this is kind of the unofficial kickstarting to summer plans, cookouts and picnics, and those get-togethers with family and friends, graduation parties. So I thought, why don't I talk about some games that I think are great party games? Now, party games can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And sometimes in the hardcore gamer world, party games are really looked down on. But there are some great games out there and that are good for gamers and non-gamers. I think party games are a great way to get people into the hobby and a way for people that are a little kind of intimidated by all of this to jump in, to find a starting point, and to get interested in board games. So I've made a list, a top 10, though the numbers don't necessarily mean that much, to try and tell you what games are out there that could be fun, that you can try to mix up instead of the apples to apples, the Cards Against Humanity, your Clue, games that if you have a big group, you can play these games with. So for me, I wrote down some criteria for what I considered for this list to be party games. So we're talking at least 6 players, and most of them play more, and that are kind of easily accessible to people. They cover a variety of ages, because when you're getting together at a picnic, you might have some younger kids, you might have grandma and grandpa, friends your own age, whatever, people you want to get in on the game with, but you want a game that kind of can span all ages, that's not really targeted to one group, like some, Trivial Pursuits might be, or Cards Against Humanity is kind of to a younger crowd. So these kind of go through that, and the mechanics are pretty easy. Usually there's maybe one mechanism that the game primarily relies on, instead of so many different things. So, not with all that said, let's start with my number 10 pick. All right, number 10. Number 10 is a game that I played with a group of ladies at church. So, this game can kind of span all different types of people, and that game is called Monikers. Monikers is a game that kind of mixes some of those really classic party games of Taboo and charades and, anything where you're up interacting, you've got team members on your side, you're acting things out, you are giving clues. All those kind of come together in the game of Monikers. Monikers also has several different expansion sets, so it's kind of an ever-growing game that you can play with all kinds of people. So the basic premise behind Monikers is everyone gets a set of cards, a hand of cards, and you are looking through and you're picking out like 3 of those cards that you say, I know what these things are. And they can be anything. Marie Antoinette, Lance Armstrong, I'm trying to think of Puxatawny Phil, he came up in a game that I played. Just lots of different kind of maybe more pop culture type references, but some historical people as well. And you say, I know this thing, this person, I know this entity. And so everyone picks out their couple of cards that they know really well. And they all get shuffled together into one single deck. You're split into 2 teams. And in the first round, you are going through the stack of cards that you get. Each team has a time limit, and you are trying to get your team to say whatever it is in the card. In whatever way you can, you just can't say the name on the card. So for Puxatawny Phil, I'm saying, okay, Groundhog Day, he comes out of the hole, he's over there in Pennsylvania, we're looking for his shadow, to try and get them to say Puxatawny Phil. And whoever else, go through as many as you can to try and get that through the stack. Once your time is up, it goes to the other team. They have a chance at the stack. If they don't get it through it, the stack comes back to you at the end of the time limit. So your team's back and forth. So each team is hearing some of the clues that your team had picked, but they're all mixed together. Once all those cards are done, you go to round 2. you calculate your total for round 1, how many each team got, till you get through all the cards. Round 2, then, now you have got to act it out. And so now Punxsutawney Phil is, and I'm looking in the sun. I'm going to try to indicate shadow, doing whatever I can to get my team to guess Punxsutawney Phil without using words. So hopefully they remembered when I gave them all the clues last time what kind of clues are in this stack. Once you go through the stack, acting everything out, then you've got your last round, and you can only give one word as a clue. One word, that's it. So the game is fun and fast-paced, and people are trying to remember stuff. You're trying to get people to jog their memory, like, you know this, Marie Antoinette. How many times? Let them eat cake. Can I get people to guess that? And some people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's fun and lighthearted, a great party game, and that is my number 10 monikers. My number 9 party game is Bonanza. Bonanza, actually, one of my good friends in college, he is crazy about this game. And I'd heard about it, and it's been around for a long time. Rio Grande Games put this out. It's been a number of years ago. And people love to play it. Uwe Rosenberg, classic. That man is a genius. He's doing different types of games now, some more like puzzle, Tetris-y type games. But Bonanza can play, I don't know, a number of players, up to 7 people, so you can get lots of people in, and it's really simple. It's just cards and a field. That's all you're working with. So you've got your field. You can, I think, if more than 2 players or 3 players, you're doing just 2 fields, and you've got cards, different kind of beans on them, and you are planting beans in your field. Some of the beans are hilarious. I think another great thing about this game is that it has really humorous artwork for your red bean. He's embarrassed. But it's really easy. On your turn, you play 2 cards out of your hand. You make sure all the beans in your hand, they cannot move. However I pick up my beans is how they stay in my hand. So if I make a hand, this is how they are laid out. I must start playing with my red bean, and then I can move on to my stink bean. So I'm playing beans in my field, and then after I play up to 2, I draw 2 from the draw pile, and I have to do something with them. And you're trying to get money by harvesting beans at the right time when you get the right number of beans in your field. But you've also got these beans in the center that come out that you're like, oh, I don't have them in my field. I don't have room. I don't want to harvest what I have. How can I get rid of them? And that's where another great part of this game comes in, is where you're constantly engaging with your other players. Like, hey, I got this stink bean out here. I don't need it, but I see you have it. Maybe you want to trade me for something that I have. Kind of doing that bartering, that back and forth thing. And if they can't get it traded away, sometimes you get stuck with beans that you don't want. And so it's like that, rivalry. It's light, not very take that kind of game, but it's still a great interacting game with other people, and very simple, just cards that you're picking up and playing. So that is my number 9, Bonanza. My number 8 is definitely going to be familiar to, I'm sure, all of you if you've entered a Target in the past, 2 years. My number 8 is Codenames. This is the original Codenames. There are also several other types of Codenames, Marvel and Disney. And then if you don't have a big group, which it wouldn't belong on this list, Codenames Duel for only 2 people, there are all different types of Codenames out there. And what's great about Codenames is you can have any number of players. They say 2 to 8 plus. I've played with lots of people. However, you can crowd around the table. Codenames, you're laying out cards that have words on them. These cards, these words are just simple, everyday things like mug, or robin, or bridge. And the cards are very nondescript. Drill. You're laying out a grid of these cards, and each team has someone that gives the clues. And you have a number, your blue team, red team. You are taking your grid, certain words in the grid belong to your team. And you're trying to get the rest of the players to guess what they are, but you can only say 1 word and 1 number. So you're trying to get them to guess as many as you can because you want to be the first to get all of your spies, which is part of the theme, identified by their code name. So if there's lemon out there and there's orange and there's apple, I might say fruit 3. But what if tomato is out there as well and that belongs to the other team? I have to rely on my team to not get too scientific and decide that tomato is part of the fruit that I have just given them. So there's a little bit of strategy involved, but it's so simple because you just have this set of cards and you have a person giving the clues. And so you're working together as that team saying, okay, what could they possibly mean? They said metal 3. Okay, do they mean like heavy metal? Because here's guitar right here. Or do they mean like this aluminum over here and the steel right here? How many of them can we get without getting them wrong or guessing the other team? There's also the assassin element where one of the clues out there belongs to the assassin. And if your team accidentally guesses that as one of your spies, you totally lose. So this is a great game. Again, I've played with all types of ages, all types of people, and it's fun, interactive, people working together, and there's just that nice little element of strategy that makes Codenames my number 8. All right, now my number 7, some people might fight me on. My husband disagreed, Jason of the Board Game Mechanics, disagreed that this is a party game because it technically says it only plays 3 to 6 people. And my party game defining parameters was 6+. However, the only thing that really hinders you from playing more players in this game is player tokens, which is easily solvable. So my number 7 is Dixit. Dixit is another one of those games that has expansions, so the replayability on this is excellent, first of all. Second of all, it's like so many games that already are out there. People love the apples to apples. People love the Cards Against Humanity. They love looking at cards and kind of debating and deciding on what they want to go with. And Dixit is that kind of game. The beauty about Dixit is actually in the artwork because even the little subtitle here says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so Dixit is all about pictures. So your hand of cards are just some gorgeous artwork, and different expansions give you different artwork. My personal favorite expansion is this one. It has gold leaf on a lot of its cards. And so these great tarot-sized cards that you have, and they have such interesting art to look at and to think about on each card. And you're using them to create kind of stories for people. So you're looking at your hand. If it's your turn to be the storyteller, you are looking at your cards, and this is I think a fascinating card. And so I'm going to look at it, and I need to give a clue, and I want some people to guess my card, but not everyone. But I certainly don't want to leave people in the dark, otherwise I'm not going to get points. So I might give the clue earworm, which is a little bit vague. But if you've ever had a song stuck in your head or you hear someone else sing that song and suddenly you can't get it out of your brain, those shared music notes between 2 different people just made me think of that. And then other people try to match that. So there's that balderdash element where they want to find something that sounds like, that looks like earworm maybe to other people in order to get more points from their fellow companions. And then everybody votes. So another really great thing about this is your little player tokens are these adorable little bunnies. I'm not quite sure why they're bunnies, but they are. So if you have more than 6 people, they only have 6 bunnies. You can always use pennies or stuff from other games and just throw those in there to keep track of your points. And then, use something else as your little voting tokens, because these are just, cardboard sheets with numbers on them. You can easily make those with paper or borrow them from a different game. But the great thing about Dixit is you've got that voting element that people really like. You get to look at beautiful artwork. You get to see how people's perspective on certain stories and art, what they focus on in a picture, just that really cool, just peek into the human mind, but yet in a very simple, easy way and very familiar way to play. So don't be afraid if you've got more than 6 to add people to this, especially if you get those expansions with those extra cards. You have plenty to go around. So that's why my number 7 is Dixit. My number 8 is a game that comes in a tin, and I love games that come in tins. It makes them more sturdy and portable, and I just love the tactile feel of it. Number 8 is a game called Ghost Blitz, and I actually saw this on a video by the Boardgame Cafe Snakes and Lattes that is in Canada, and I thought that is a really cool game. And then when I was at Origins a couple years ago, they had a copy there, and I played it, and I thought this game is so ridiculously fun. So Ghost Blitz, this actually is the Ghost Blitz and the Spooky Doo, so there's 2 separate games inside this one as well. And I'm trying to see if they give you a recommended player number. I honestly don't even think they care. You can play this with all kinds of people. And so Ghost Blitz is one of those games where it reminds me a little bit of Spoons, where you have objects in the center and people are grabbing for them. So that automatically gets people a little wound up. If you've got competitive people in your group, they love that. So you've got these really tactile, chunky pieces that I love. So you've got this little ghost, you've got your bottle, you've got your blue book, you've got the red chair, and of course the little gray mouse. So you've got all these different pieces that have both a shape and a color. And that becomes very important because you will turn over cards that show things on them. For example, in this card you can see there's a red mouse in a blue bottle. Well, when I just showed you, the mouse is gray and the bottle is green. But when cards come up, you want to grab the object that is not pictured. So the bottle is pictured. The book is blue, so the blue is represented in the picture. The mouse is red, so the red chair is out. And the mouse is on there, so the mouse is out, which leaves you with the ghost. So if this card comes out, the first person to grab the ghost gets the card, which gets them a point to win. However, there are also cards that when they come up, it's not what's missing, but what's exact. So at first glance on this card, I'm like, oh, there's nothing blue. But there's also nothing red. But the chair's there. But if you see, there is a gray mouse. So if it's an exact match, you have to grab the exact object that's pictured. So your brain might get into the habit of looking for what's not there, and then suddenly you need exactly what's there, which is what makes this game so fun and ridiculous. And yet it's competitive for people of any level of gaming. So I have friends that have used this to help teach their kids, like look for, compare and contrast kind of things. And then other gamers love it. I think Snakes and Lattes talked about how fun it is to watch slightly inebriated people play this game and try to sort out what's there, what's not. I played it with some of my youth group girls, and like parts were flying. It was fun. And I mean, I entertained teenagers, and they didn't completely hate it and roll their eyes at me. So it's such a great fun game with great pieces. And there are different adaptations. The Spooky Doo adds like this little hat, and you've got a barrel instead of a book. And then suddenly the hat's covering up things. There are different variations where you actually have to say what needs to be there instead of grabbing for the piece. So Ghost Blitz is a great game that is really fun and yet so simple. My number 6 is Ghost Blitz. Number 5 is a game that I played in college all the time. And so that means it's been around for a while. My number 5 is Bang. Here I have Bang the Dice Game, but I also have the other version of Bang. And Bang, I have the Bang with this isn't a huge bullet. I think just because it looks fun. That's why we bought it. But it actually contains a couple of different expansions to the game Bang. And both of these, you need like a minimum of 3 players, but the game really plays best at the high player counts at like 8. So in Bang, this is a great Wild West theme to it, where you've got a sheriff. Everybody knows who the sheriff is. I mean, obviously, he's got a badge. I don't know if there's a badge in the dice game, but in my other copy, I do have an actual badge the sheriff can wear. And then it's the hidden role concept. So there are some deputies out there. There are outlaws. So obviously, the deputies want to protect the sheriff. The outlaws want to get the sheriff. And then you've got the renegade. Now the renegade just wants utter chaos. He wants to take over the town. So he'll help take out anybody he can to be the last one standing, down to him and the sheriff, and he wants to win. So Bang the Dice game, you have got that fun, take that, I'm going to shoot you. I've got all these cool, like, Wild West paraphernalia. I'm on my Mustang. I'm riding away so you can't get me. Oh, here, I'm going to pull out my Derringer. It just has that fun, like, theme, that Cowboys theme that people really love. And also, everyone has a good time saying, hey, I'm going to drink a beer and gain some health. And I think it's hilarious. Or, bang, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to bang you. I'm going to bang you. And that's a little ridiculous inside joke. But this game is so fun when you've got a whole table of people and you're just duking it out, trying to survive in the Wild West. It just makes it a great game. So my number 5 is Bang the Dice game. My number 4 is a game that Jason and I backed on Kickstarter, and we, at the time, had hardly done anything with Kickstarter. But there's something so cool about this game that just really appealed to us. So my number 4 is Tortuga. Now, the thing about Tortuga is normally I go for awesome artwork on a box, like that really draws me in, or if it's cute or fun, Asian themed. I'm also a big sucker for the pirate theme. And I'm also a big sucker for games that look like books, because I love books. So the cool thing about Tortuga 1667 is, oh my gosh, this awesome box that it comes in that looks like a book. We've got this adorable, the rule book fits right in, the play mat rolls right up in there. You've got these great cards, this little bag for pieces. It's got this magnetic closure. It's awesome. And besides that, the game is great. So you can play this with a lot of people. Let me check and make sure I get that right. You can play up to 9 players in this little tiny box, which is another thing that I think makes it so great for this season of picnics and campouts and vacations, is you can just tuck this away like a book in your purse, in your beach bag, and all the parts fit right in. And these great cards, they'll wipe right off if you get sand on them or any suntan lotion. It's so great. So in Tortuga, you've got this awesome piratey feel. There are 2 boats, and if I unroll the map, it'll probably be easier. That rolls right there. You've got these 2 boats, and everyone's got their own position. There's, captain and first mate, all the usual people on a boat. Then you've also got different nationalities that are duking it out in 1667. You've got the British, you've got the Portuguese, you've got, let me pull them all out. Bertrand. Everyone's got their own, you can have your own personality where you are this famous pirate. So you've got the British, you've got the French, you've got the Dutch. I think I added it in Portuguese. It's not. They're Dutch. So you've got French, British, and Portuguese. So you don't really know who else you're playing with is part of that team, your nation that you're fighting with, to have control over these boats and thus treasure. So there's a Spanish galleon, and then you've got the island Tortuga. So as you're playing, you are booting people off of your boat because you're like, I don't know if I can trust them. I don't want them to get a share of some treasure. So I'm going to boot them off here, and they're going to get marooned on Tortuga. They could be your own teammates. So they could be mad because they figured out that you're on their team, but you haven't figured it out yet, and you just booted them off. Or you can be the first mate and be like, I'm going to mutiny against this captain because I don't like them. I don't want them to get the treasure. And I think they're Dutch, and I'm French. We don't play that well together. So you boot them off. Well, you get on Tortuga, and you're like, well, I'm marooned here. I'm going to be the mayor of Tortuga and get myself some treasure and some money that way. So there are lots of different ways to play this game. It's fun. It's very easy. Like, there's only a few actions. You're just voting, like, do I boot people off? How am I moving here? Then you're also got that hidden role where, are you on my team? Do I want to get you on my boat? Do I want to keep us all on the boat? Do I want to boot you off? There's lots of different elements. There's lots of player interaction, and the components are awesome. So that's what makes Tortuga my number 4. All right, we're coming down to the top 3 party games that I basically came up with. I'm sure there are other great games out there, but these are the ones I happen to own on my shelf, and I've played a ton of times, and they've really been successful. So my number 3 is a game that I really love because of the theme, to be honest, and the art. Like I just said with Tortuga, plain looking box. My number 3, Sushi Go Party, is anything but. It's this awesome tin, which I love, but also, oh, look at those sushi. It's so cute. Huh. Now I love sushi, being from a Japanese family, but who doesn't love little anime sushi that has adorable faces? I mean, really. So Sushi Go Party is great. It plays up to 8 players, so you can put lots of people to play with this. A lot of people love sushi. The theme is really accessible for them. And your board and your components are great. So you have almost a sushi menu that you set up every time you play the game, which also makes the game great because you have this kind of ability to replay and have different stuff come out each time, so each game is really different. So you've got appetizers that you're going to put out there. You're going to put out your sushi rolls, and you're going to get your special out there. So you choose from those cards to set it up in order to play. You have these really cute sake bottles that are kind of keeping your score, and then you've got these really great cards. Salmon nigiri winking at you. So you are working within these rounds to try and make the most points off of these different types of sushi. And there's also, in addition to sushi, you've got some special like chopsticks that allow you to do some special things. Miso soup that only one person a hand can get points off of. And so Sushi Go is kind of this the classic game of like hand drafting, where you get a hand of cards, you pick one, you play it, you pass the rest. And so you're not sure, like, okay, I really want to keep these dumplings, but I need to get more than one in order to make them worth it. But I don't know if they're going to come around in the next person's hand. I don't know what they're going to pass me. So you've got this really cute theme, this really easily accessible kind of way of playing, because no one's feeling left out. You're all playing simultaneously. You're drafting a card, you're putting it down, you're passing on, you're revealing your card. And then once all the cards are gone for that round, you score it. So it's not difficult, but there still is a strategy element to it. What do I need to keep? What do I see other people keeping? How can I maximize my points with what's here? And so that's why I think it's just such a great party game. So my number 3 is Sushi Go Party. So my number 2 is a game that there are many other varieties of, but I just want to talk about the party kind of version, and that is Love Letter. I have really loved this game ever since I started playing it. CJ Kanai, I think, did an awesome job with this in the fact that it's just cards and not really that many cards. Now, when you talk about this Love Letter Deluxe, this premium edition, it's a little bit more than the basic editions of Love Letter that are out there, which you can get for less than $10. Unless you're looking for the Batman version, which I hear now is like prime kind of real estate to find. I do happen to have a copy of the Batman Love Letter, which is really fun and plays just slightly different than some of the other versions. But this deluxe edition has different cards. So you can also play this as just a smaller version game with the basic people you're used to, the king and the countess, and you've got your guards. But the deluxe edition is really cool, and they add new people. You've got a baroness, you have a sycophant, you have a constable, and some of these have radically different powers than your smaller version of Love Letter, and some of them just kind of mirror them, which I think is really neat. So the great thing about Love Letter is introducing it to new people is very simple. You say you have a card. Everyone has one card in their hand. When it's your turn, you draw a second card. You look at the 2 cards. You pick one and you do what it says. And that's it. So you're trying to be the last one in that either has the highest card or the last one alive, so you can get your love letter to the princess. So it's really simple mechanically, but there is a definite element of strategy to how you play your cards. And the more you play it, the more you find out how to do that. But the premium edition has those really great extra types of people that you can use. And it also has these really, instead of just the basic like cubes that the initial one had, the initial edition has these nice chunky wooden hearts, which I really love. And then everyone has a nice big laminated list of cards, which I also think is great. The size on these cards are great. They fit nice in your hand, that tarot size. I love the way that feels. And then they also come with card sleeves to keep them, because there's a lot of shuffling in Love Letter. And I know I carry around like the basic edition in my purse, and the cards are looking worse for wear, but it's still great to have. But when there's a lot of people, I love to pull this out because it's so easy to introduce to people that are new to gaming, because card games are really accessible to people. People grow up playing, you know, Crazy Eights or Euchre or, you know, whatever. And those basic card games you can channel into kind of this designer board game thing. And Love Letter, with only having one card in your hand at a time and drawing one and playing one, you can't get much simpler than that. So that's why the Love Letter Premium Edition is my number 2. And finally, we're ready for my number 1 game of kind of a top 10 party games for this summer vacation holiday get-together season. And this one, actually the box I have now is part of the expansion edition, but my number 1 game is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. This is an expansion, so it looks a little bit different. The original one is more of a red letter. I love this game. Now, this is not, I would say, a game that maybe everybody loves party-wise, because it's a little funkier sometimes. But I think it is a great party game. In fact, Dice Tower said it was the best party game of 2015. So the thing about Deception is it's very accessible. Most people have played Clue, or they know about it, or they've seen the hilarious movie with Tim Curry. So they have this idea of murder mystery is something that people really like. And also a lot of people really like hidden role. And so that's what you have in Deception. So Deception, you can play it with a variety of, varied number of players. I'm looking for the exact player count. 4 to 12. So this is probably one of the bigger number games that I've picked out. But at the higher levels, you've got kind of some extra roles that are introduced that I think are great, that people really enjoy, and that make the game, I think, even better, much better than at smaller counts. So I definitely would pull this out when you've got at least 7, 8 people plus to make it a really fun experience. So you have one person that's the forensic scientist. Generally, as I'm teaching this game, I take on that role. So I'm kind of the moderator, if you're familiar with Mafia or Werewolf, One Night Werewolf, or things like that. It's that type of game where there's one person that's kind of moderating what's happening. I'm not on anybody's side necessarily. And then you've got someone who's a murderer. And then you often, if you have a high enough player count, you've got an accomplice. You might have some witnesses. And then everyone else is kind of the investigators. They're trying to figure out what happened. So the way they do that is everyone in front of them has 2 types of cards. They have actual murder weapons, potential murder weapons. So these cards are blue. Some of these are hilarious. So you've got, here we have a chainsaw, that's pretty obvious. Or you're gonna whack somebody that have the fire extinguisher, or I don't know, this is crazy. A for sale sign, I have yet to see that, but I'm sure that there's some murder mystery where that happens. Or, oh, hey, a death ray. This is serious. This is for the James Bond villains. They're not messing around. Death ray. You've also got items that the killer left behind. For example, a rose. Oh, that's very poetic. You've got an ID card, maybe. Oh, maybe it was big and they left an oil painting. They just couldn't be bothered to take the Mona Lisa after they killed somebody. Or even here, internet cable. I don't know. A violin. Sherlock Holmes would love it. So you've got these, everyone has 4 of each of those cards in front of them. So when everyone closes their eyes, like they do in these types of games, the murderer then opens their eyes and points in front of someone, in front of themselves. They point to one of the weapons and they point to one of the items of evidence that they're leaving behind. And then it is the duty of the forensic scientist to help the other people figure out what those are. The way they do that is through tiles. So these tiles can be helpful, or they can just kill you as a forensic scientist. So there are certain tiles that always come out that tell you a little bit about kind of the state of the scene. And if I can find these. Obviously did not set up this game like I should have. Okay. There's some even plot twists that can come out as well. But you've got cards that the forensic scientist is always going to use. They're going to be able to tell you the location of the crime. So they will always use one of these to tell you the location of the crime. The problem is sometimes, I mean, death ray, where is the death ray going to be located? I guess maybe a secluded outdoor space because it's hard to hide that. But you could put a death ray in a business. So that's where it's very difficult. How do I tell you where the death ray is located? There's a couple of choices. So your location of crime, you've got those playground, classroom, dormitory, building site, pub, bookstore. The woods or vacation home is a common location for a death ray, I suppose. To try and tell what the location of the crime was, to get people to look in the direction of said death ray. But other people might have things that are similar. For example, maybe if you have the death ray I also saw here, there is a laser shark. I think often death rays and laser sharks, they're a little similar. If I'm looking at my Dr. Nose or whatever, I'm not really sure which one he used. So that might not help my investigators, but I'm going to try the best I can when I'm giving them the location. Then the next tiles that come up may be helpful or not. The corpse condition. Still warm, stiff, decayed, incomplete, intact, or twisted. Well, if the death ray cut him in half, I guess he's incomplete, but he could be still warm because the death ray is warm. So the forensic scientist is trying their best. They cannot talk. They can only pick one clue off of each of the tiles to use in order to get people to look at the right person. And then get not only the weapon, but also what was left behind. And so each person only gets one guess, and they have to get both right in order to win. And as a forensic scientist, you can't tell them, oh yeah, you got the weapon right, but you didn't get what was left behind right. I can only say yes, that's correct, or no. And so that makes it difficult. And so everyone's speculating. You've got that great interaction with other people and you're getting accusing. And if you're the murderer, you're trying to throw off everybody else and you don't want people to get caught. And so you're like, well, oh yeah, wow, death ray and shark laser beam, those seem really similar. I think that shark laser beam seems like a much better weapon to fit what the forensic scientists put out. So you've got this opportunity to kind of be deceptive, to bluff, to misdirect, to use some really critical thinking skills to try and work with the forensic scientist. If you're the forensic scientist, you're like, how do I get these people to think in the right way? And I can replace one tile around. So which one was totally unhelpful? How do I get that out of there? And then you have this really cool element with these extra characters. If, let's say people do figure out who the murderer is and they get it right. Well, the murderer, if there's a witness involved, the murderer picks one person to kill in the group. If the murderer correctly kills the witness, they win because they didn't have anyone that witnessed their crime. So they got away with it scot-free. So there's some really cool elements to this game. With the expansions, you've got different things, like I think the shark laser beam was not in the original. So you've got some different locations and things going on. And I'm a big fan of deduction games, of clue, of hidden roll, of bluffing, of misdirection. I love that. So that's why for me, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong is my #1 party game. Well, thanks everybody so much for watching this video. I know that Jason and Joel both are doing more reviews and the podcast focuses a lot more on some in-depth kind of news and things in the gaming world, but I really want all kinds of people to be able to enjoy board games. So if you know someone that is new to board games, or that, you know, oh yeah, they have a lot of games. They've got Monopoly, they've got Clue, they've got Triple Pursuit, they've got Balderdash. Have them, you know, watch this video, watch some of my other videos, listen to the Board Game Mechanics podcast, like us on Facebook, join the Riveted on Facebook, where we chat about board games all the time and bring up new stuff to talk about, and find games that we find that we love, to give recommendations, or just ask us questions about games that you like. And I'm going to try to make more videos that help people who want to get into the hobby to know what kind of games are out there, where they can find them, what they can relate to, what games are really great to help bring other people into and love board games like we do, and like many of you do. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Katie from That's What She Said, and like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, subscribe to us, and we'll bring you more content. Thanks from the Board Game Mechanics. Bye guys, love ya.